Hello everyone, this is Lala and I talked about the classic era in a video recently and I'm continuing the Big Brother eras with talking about the post-classic era today, and that is the second era of Big Brother. I didn't really know of a better title, and because the era is less rigid than the prior one in my opinion, calling it post-classic makes sense to me. Unlike the last era, it's hard to immediately pinpoint the similarities with the seasons. So what I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to briefly talk about each season separately and talk about the twists in that season and maybe make some comparing and contrasting to pick out the main commonalities with these seasons that causes them to be grouped here. In general, it was clear that there's a more MTV slash VH1 celeb reality-esque vibe to a lot of the seasons in this era, since there's a huge increase in the drama, the arguing, the romances, and all of that. But I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it was just something that happened due to the climate of the late 2000s and early 2010s becoming a lot more ratchet in the landscape of reality TV, and there's simply put a lot more competition, and the boundaries kept on being pushed. So, anyways, this era started with the conclusion of All Stars and the retirement slash departure of Arnold Shapiro from the production of the show. So, Big Brother 8 was really the start of this, due to what was missing compared to the last season and the last era overall. Obviously, we have to start with the first season of this era, which is Big Brother 8. What was notable with this season and some of the first few seasons in this era is the continuance of casting twists, where Big Brother 8 had the Rivals twist, which included Dick and Danielle, Carol and Jessica, and Joe and Dustin. 2/3 of the pairings flopped immediately, with the first two boots coming from two of the pairs, but the final pair made it to the very end, and the season was essentially the story of the Donados. I really don't have anything else to say about the season in this regard, and America's Player was a twist, but it wasn't a foundational twist compared to the twists in the prior era, which makes it distinctive, and it's barely been used on any other season. But you do see the start of how the producers implementing twists that involve America's input can affect the season, and it is far from the last one in this era. Also, things became a lot more cartoony here with the emphasis of the costumes and some of the obnoxious sound effects. So you start to see a lot of that here. Big Brother 9 is an interesting case to me, since it ends whatever ties that there was to the prior era had regarding its twist, but it also starts the type of commonplace twist that are apparent within this era. In my opinion, this is really the final season that had a casting twist, though I guess they revamped the twin twist in Big Brother 17, but that was more of a throwback than anything foundational or consistent, as Big Brother 9 decided to cast a pair that were exes, i.e. Sharon and Jacob, and another two house guests that were dating at the time, i.e. Jen and Ryan. Casting twists had essentially been prevalent since Big Brother 4, and it's pretty much done at this point. On the other hand, it did start to set a twist that the era would be known for. Season-defining gameplay twists, but they aren't foundational twists like the last era did with stuff like the HOH and Power of Veto. This would be the first season that would have pairs where you play as a twosome, where you win competitions together, and you go home as a duo. Clearly, this was a way for them to handle 16 players, which was the first in Big Brother's case, within the same 9 to 10 week schedule that the first two eras are known for, but it was sloppily done in the season. They created the pairs based on quote-unquote compatibility done by tests, which it's really done to ensure the best case for drama. It would also be the first where the gameplay defining twist would last for the pre-jury or the first few weeks of the season, and this never really went away in future seasons. So, Big Brother 10 is a season I don't have much to talk about regarding the evolutions in the era specifically. I guess they did the new graphics, which would last up until Big Brother 14 or 15, if I'm correct, and they would change the eviction stage that remained until Big Brother 14. This was intentionally set to be a back to basics season, and went back to the quote-unquote all walks of life, where everyone in the cast are strangers, and that element that has been missing post Big Brother 3. But it was really a temporary thing. America's player returned for a week, so there was that, but I shockingly don't have a whole lot to say about the season. But it is heavily speculated that it was so underproduced regarding the twist and all that because they spent a lot of their budget on Big Brother 9 due to the strike. Big Brother 11 is where I think things became a lot more consistent with this era. We saw the cliques form this season, and this continued the gameplay element twist that groups the cast together in a certain way, where the four cliques were the athletes, populars, offbeat, and the brains. Production puts them in these teams for the first month of the game, where if a person wins HOH, their entire team is safe and they cannot nominate them. And like the cliques twist comparatively to the pairs twist in Big Brother 9, it only lasted for a few weeks before it disappeared, making it different from the twists in the prior era. And then the coup d'etat returned on this season, but unlike Big Brother 7, it was in America's vote here and not a competition, so you see how America's influence helped out, like in Big Brother 8 and arguably during that 1 week on Big Brother 10 with the America's player, with Jeff getting it and using it to dismantle the other side. There was a huge emphasis on showmances that started in this era due to the popularity of Jordan F., where we also had America's vote in the jury due to Chima's expulsion. It seemed like it's around here where any attachment to the prior era is gone for sure. Pandora's Box was introduced in the season, and it became a staple for the next few seasons, where sometimes it would be for silly things and other times it would be for more gameplay elements as well. When looking at Big Brother 12, there really was not many twists put into the game, as the main twist of the season was the Saboteur, which was somewhat of a sequel to America's Player, since they were given tasks to do, with many being harmless, but I'm sure they would have been more gameplay focused had it lasted longer. And speaking of that, the twist flopped because the person production chose to be the Saboteur, i.e. Annie, was booted in week 1. You could tell that they did not know what to do since their main twist was gone, so they decided to bring it back in the middle of the season, and Reagan was chosen to be the Saboteur, which we had for about 2-ish weeks if I remember correctly. The season also continued the huge focus of showmances, which is something that the show in future seasons will try to compete against or replicate, and I believe heavily influenced the twist of the next season. So, I've been doing a veteran privilege series on this channel relating to mixed seasons very recently, and the biggest example of this comes from Big Brother 13. It's clear that CPS wanted returnees, but they did not want to deal with a cast of full returnees, so they made it a mixed season, but made it about half and half, give or take, unlike having one returnee for Big Brother 11. Clearly, this was done to capture the popularity of the pairs, mainly of the Donatos and Dread F, since Brenchel were hated throughout the last year, but them being polarizing also brought a lot more attention to it. We saw the continuance of Pandora's Box, though it had more gameplay focus on here compared to the last 2 seasons. Duos were brought back this season, which of course lasted throughout the first few weeks of the season, and brought back for the final 6 of the season. The Golden Key twist came in as a package deal for the first few weeks, pertaining to the person out of the pair who survived the block, and that was also a twist that only lasted a few weeks. This continued on with Big Brother 14, where it was clear that they wanted veterans back, but they did not want to deal with the full returnee season, and they also saw how successful it was in the ratings department pertaining to Big Brother 13. The main difference is that instead of making the returnees players from the beginning, they made them coaches where they were helping the other newbie players for the first few weeks, and essentially gave the coaches a month of invincibility, unless all of the coaches' teammates were booted, but the likelihood of that was extremely low anyways. There really wasn't anything else new to the season, though the Pandora's Box came into play again. If I remember correctly, I think this is the final season with Pandora's Box in it. I will mention that this is the final season that had the normal 9 to 10 week season length, as every season after this would be much longer, and this would be the final season for over a decade that had a 7-player jury. Big Brother 15 is a huge anomaly when it comes to this era, to the point where I didn't even know if it fit into this era. We did have a new eviction set design that carried into the next era. The seasons got a lot longer. We had a 9-person jury for the first time, which lasted throughout the next era and the start of the 4th era. There are 2 double evictions, one right as jury started and another in mid to late jury, which carried on to the next 3 seasons after this, give or take. And there was a returning genre twist, which was prevalent in the next era especially. At the same time, the editing and some of the graphics, even the cameras, were reminiscent of this era. Some of the twists here were similar to this current era, and the casting is also reminiscent to this era as well. This is the final season that had the nomination Key Wheel as well, which also ties it to this era. Also, they finally realized how to properly fit a 16 house guest cast on a Big Brother season, which is reminiscent of the future era after this. Anyways, the main twist of the season is the MVP twist, where there was a third nominee put into place via secret, in theory, emphasis on in theory, by a house guest America chose to grant the power to, and this lasted for the first 6 weeks of the season. As you can see, it was clear that a transition was taking place with this season, but it wasn't complete until the next season. Some do speculate that this was supposed to be the start of a new era, changes that were made, but because it was a huge PR disaster, they needed to revamp it again, which they did with Big Brother 16 and caused the seasons after Big Brother 16 to be formulated after that. So some consider this to be a failed reboot. I also forgot to mention that this was the first season where they cast a relative of a prior house guest or an alumni of reality TV, but in this case, Alyssa being related to Rachel by blood and to Brennan by marriage, which also ties this season to this era even more, but we will see this a few more times in Big Brother history. So now that we went through the seasons, there were a few commonalities that I picked up on. One of them are the temporary gameplay twist that forces the cast together and or lasts for a few weeks. So things like the couples, the cliques, the pairs, and the teams in BB14, which fit both, with the MVP twist, the golden key twist, and the coup d'etat also lasting a few weeks as well, but only fitting the latter category. There was a huge increase in drama in this era, like I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, but it would go too far, especially in Big Brother 15, and there would be attempts to quell the drama in future seasons. And the casting, while prototypical, was more fueled for drama, which would end with the more safe casting in the next era. We also saw the struggle of incorporating larger casts, which isn't something that they got until the tail end of the era, where they would never go back to the smaller casts ever again. I also forgot to mention, but you could clearly tell if you looked at the pictures I used in this video, this was the era that started the whole swimsuit vibe, beach vibe of the show. Maybe not the beach vibe, but definitely the swimsuit vibe, where the casts started taking swimsuit pictures from Big Brother 8 onwards. Also, we would start to see things like the have-nots, which the have-nots which started on Big Brother 11 and would be rampant in every season since, but it was more focused on in this era and somewhat in the next era as well. So returnees from this era consists of Dick, Danielle, Jesse, Dan, Keisha, Memphis, Jeff, Jordan, Kevin, Brendan, Rachel, Brittany, Enzo, Frank, and Ian. People who also made cameos in future seasons are Eric, Jessica, Jen, Matt, with Alyssa also partaking on The Amazing Race, which is another CBS show. So those are the more notable people from this era overall. Take notice that there has been no returnee, at least in Big Brother, from Big Brother 9 and Big Brother 15, with none of the newbies from Big Brother 13 coming back either. So to me, that shows that production was not thrilled with any of these seasons, or at least with the casts. So I really don't have anything else to say. This is how I feel and how I define the second era. I'm most definitely going to do the third era, and because the fourth era isn't done yet, I don't know if I'm going to make a full-on video there. But thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with more content soon. Bye!